Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as we enter our 13th year, thanks for watching. Well, a higher education update and then reform in Harrisburg. Is it at all possible? Pennsylvania government and politics in depth and in detail. And guess what? It all starts right here, right now.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, as you know, periodically what we've been doing on the program is we've been bringing in some folks, I'll get that out, and from higher education. We'll talk about some trends and what's going on. Joining me is the president of Cheyney University, Dr. Michelle Howard Vitale. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
See, there you go. And she's the president, by the way. Everybody calls him Madam President. Dr. Ivan Banks, he's the provost. So we got the two top officers here. It doesn't get any better than that. All right, look, before we, I want to talk a little bit about, in general, about higher ed. Cheyney University, it's the, if my memory's right, the oldest black college in the country?
Absolutely. 1837, I'm very proud of that, and particularly because its roots come from Quakers, and when you look back, it was called the Institute for Color Youth. Some of the most extraordinary Americans came out of the 19th century Institute for Color Youth, so we're very proud of our legacy there.
Yeah. Well, look, Mr. Provost, you're the curriculum guy, right?
I am.
When kids come in, what is it that the curricular changes that you see that are important for kids? Preparation. Talk a little bit about your curriculum and what you think, its major features are.
Well, I got to say that since I arrived at Cheyney University, we did take a very strong look at not only the curriculum but the way educational services are delivered. Mm-hmm. And within a couple of months, we developed a new academic plan. And the academic plan has as its ultimate goal career readiness or readiness for graduate school.
Right.
But it starts at the very basic level where we lost quite a few students during freshman year, so there's a new emphasis on improving instruction in those what we call gatekeeper courses. Yeah. The second phase focuses on looking at best practices in student engagement, because that body of research suggests that if you get students engaged, they're more likely to stay.
And these graduation rates, Madam President, improving them, getting people, we know that if you get a college education, we know what it means for job satisfaction, we know what it means for income down the line. And
absolutely.
How is that a major focus of what you're all doing at Cheyney?
Absolutely. What we want to do at Cheyney is respond to the needs of the region in terms of preparing the workforce. Yeah. And we have many needs. Teacher education is one of our past strengths that we need more teachers now. We want to contribute to the STEM areas. We know we need scientists, we need engineers, and we also, believe it or not, we have a focus in media arts, fine arts, and entertainment arts. Because Ed Bradley is one of our graduates.
Yeah, I know that.
Jim
Actually,
Vance,
I do know that.
Robert Trainum, Robert Bogle. So we have a history of preparing very
public
good,
service.
Yes, communication majors.
Yeah.
Media.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about historically black colleges. Are they still necessary?
I would say absolutely so.
We have all this emphasis on integration and one family, and what do you think is unique about it?
I don't think it really has as much to do with pro or con integration arguments. You kind of have to kind of look at colleges sort of like when you buy a house. Sometimes you walk in a house and it just feels right. Yeah. So in some instances here we're talking about a university or universities that have a different kind of feel.
Right.
Just like other universities that might have different philosophical bents or different kinds of commitments.
So you're talking about, in a sense, then, a kind of, there ought to be something for everybody.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We're going to go to a break, but go ahead, finish the thought.
No, Americans are very unique, so you need institutions that will somehow speak to their uniqueness.
Good point. All right, we're going to run to a break. Higher education is the focus, and then coming up, Tim Potts is here. Can anybody reform Harrisburg? If anybody can, Tim Potts can. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by PAConstructionJobs.com. For more information about rewarding careers in the highway construction industry, visit PAConstructionJobs.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back. Well, higher education is our focus for 2 segments here. Look, Doctor, let's talk a little bit about entry level. I mean, one of the things about the state system university, a lot of first-time college entrants, you know, the family's done a lot in education. They go, still relatively inexpensive, high quality. How important is that, not just for African-American students, but for, you know, any student as a place to go to get an education?
That's extremely important. We just redid our strategic plan, and most of our faculty and stakeholders realize the importance of Cheyney University to be that place for first-generation college students, and also for students who are probably poorer than your average American. And if we don't have these type of entry places, how are we then going to change the larger American society to be more competitive?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is in full disclosure here, I'm a former professor at Millersville University before I went to Franklin and Marshall. But the point is that it's high-quality education, and the cost, I know we want to keep tuitions down. We got that picture. But the quality, and that's in your area. You're the safekeeper. You got to safeguard that quality. It's pretty good at these 14 schools, right?
Exactly. I would say we certainly have more than enough evidence to suggest that that students who leave our institutions are able to go on and be successful in the careers that they prepared for, and certainly Cheyney has more than its share of success stories.
And they stay in the state.
And
that's the other thing.
They really do stay in the state.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, before I let you all go, this Keystone Honors Academy. What is significant about that?
Keystone is probably one of our crowning jewels. One of our crowning jewels, and I guess I don't need to say that again. One of our crowning
You can shamelessly promote. I do that all the time. Shamelessly self-promote. We're okay with that.
But what happens a lot of times is that there are traditional measures of intelligence and predictors of success and all that kind of stuff. And what we don't always recognize is that there are other factors that determine success for students in school. So Cheyney, the Keystone Honor Society actually embraces kids who really need opportunity, but high-achieving kids who need opportunity. Okay, and these kids, they're about 250, and a waiting list that's almost 250. Kids who are high achieving and across disciplines. And these kids go on, I think the average grade point average for Keystoners is 3.5, 3.6.
Now, is this a program, these are folks who are admitted to Cheyney, and this is a special program within Cheyney, and is it a special curriculum?
Yes, it is an honors
an honors program.
College.
I got it.
Yes.
An honors college. I got it. Yep.
Right. And most of the students go on to really some of the prestigious institutions in the state, like University of Pittsburgh, and we're very, very proud of them. And
very good.
They go on to a variety of fields that respond to the workforce needs. Temple, very proud of them.
And I presume that that's the group of people who will go on to law school and medical school and, and into some of the other professions.
And
can you tie them down so they stay in the state?
We're going to try.
Can you make sure they don't leave?
We're definitely
go ahead.
try.
We do draw, primarily from the Philadelphia area, probably 60% of our students, and they have this strong service commitment to their communities. So they take advantage of like the Bond Hill Scholarship Program that will pay for graduate school if you achieve at a certain level, and then they go back to make things better in their own communities.
There you go. All right. Well, look. Look. What we've decided to do here on this program is, you know, we all the time it's about bad things. It's, you know, unfortunately, it's about government. Maybe it's not working or some scandal somewhere. But isn't it nice to have somebody come in and talk about something that someone is doing right? And our friends from Cheyney University are in, and Tim Pott. Oh gosh, we're going to talk about reform in government. We go from one good. Yeah. Well, we'll be back in a moment. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Stay here.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Welcome back to the program. Tim Potts from Democracy Rising. He's one of the reformers who started an organization out of the infamous 2005 pay hike. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. It sounds familiar.
Well,
it does,
about 50-some legislators remember it, too, because they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, look, you're the preeminent reformer in this state. You have studied this as much as anybody. Our legislature, 25 people, legislators and staffers, former ones, actually a current one, are under charges by the Attorney General. We have no lobbying reform that makes sense, no gift ban, no campaign finance reform. I could go on and on.
Right.
What has to happen in our state to get that legislature and it back on track?
We have to have a constitutional convention in Pennsylvania. And you know from the poll that came out in January, the Franklin and Marshall College poll, 72% of Pennsylvanians want a constitutional convention because they don't believe the legislature is capable of fixing what's wrong in Pennsylvania. That's up from just 24% 4 years ago. It's enormous. People get it, and they get the fact that the legislature is not doing it. You know, we're now 3 years into the bonus scandal. Not one piece of legislation has passed to prevent that from happening in the future. Not one piece of legislation has passed to make harsher penalties to prevent people from doing that kind of thing again.
Yeah, the one thing that sort of struck me is, and go to another angle here, there was a limited convention in 1968, and they modified some things, but here's the way to think about it. Tell me what you think about this. 1874, a century and a half, Pennsylvania took its last look at how its government functions in a holistic way. So you're running, if you count the federal money, a $50 billion operation, 55 or 60,000 state employees, and there's sort of no look at what they've done and why they do it and how they should do it in the future. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we need a holistic approach to this. And there are a lot of folks who say, well, you may have 30 or 40 constitutional issues. We'll deal with them one at a time. Well, you know, you and I, our grandchildren will be dead before that happens.
You brought this, can you get this here, guys? This is a Citizen's Guide. I don't know if they can pick this up or not. Yeah, oh yeah, there you got it. Now, this is a Democracy Rising publication?
Well, it was four of us. Common Cause, the Commonwealth Foundation, the League of Women Voters, and Democracy Rising PA commissioned this. It wasn't done by us. It was done by the Civic Research Alliance.
And how can people get this?
All they have to do is come to our website, democracyrisingpa.com, and they can download it or they can send us an email and we'll send them a copy.
All right. Let's talk about, constitutional convention. And I've written about that, and I'm supposed to be a little neutral, but on who can oppose having the people look at their state government and then recommend changes back to the people? That's am I wrong?
Exactly.
That's
right.
what we're talking about.
It is the citizens' government. It's not the government's government, and we've kind of lost sight of that fact. So.
Well, let's pick up a couple pieces of this. One of the things that we don't have in our state is meaningful campaign finance reform, which means Tim Potts, if you wanted to, could give any amount of money to any candidate at any time, and they could spend it on almost anything they want.
Unless they're substituting tax dollars, you know, as the bonus scandal people do.
Oh, you mean?
But you're absolutely right.
Oh, you mean, let's see, state workers are campaigning on state time and then get a bonus for it.
Amazing.
No, they wouldn't do that, would they? No, they would never do that. Go ahead. We'll talk about this.
There are, as I say, 30 to 40 different issues. Campaign finance reform is one of them. Election laws generally are some of those. Size of the legislature, whether we need a part-time legislature, whether we need to have appointment of judges instead of election of judges. We don't have anything in the Constitution for how to call a convention or how to replace a lieutenant governor who dies in office. There's so many things wrong. You can't address them individually. You need to get a convention of people
because
there.
all the pieces sort of fit together, right?
Exactly.
If let's say a lobbyist gift man, well, if folks can give, if Tim Potts can give a gift to a legislator, in any size gift, they have to report it, but you can give it. In a sense, that can become seen as a campaign contribution on one level. Am I right? No? So what your point is, you got to deal with all these in an integrated way. Go ahead, finish my thought.
Otherwise, you end up with a Constitution that's internally inconsistent and awkward as hell to enforce and understand.
All right, Tim Potts is here. We're going to run to a break. Now maybe we'll look for something good. No, I don't know. We'll be back following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back. We're with Tim Potts, one of the state's leading reformers. He heads Democracy Rising. Well, let's talk about this. There are a bunch of things I want to get into. But let's talk about what can people do if they want to participate in this citizens' effort to get a constitutional convention.
Well, the thing to be clear about is that the citizens are going to make this happen. It's not going to be me or any of the other reformers. It's the citizens. And when citizens decide that they are special interest number one, we'll start to get things done. One of the ways they can do it is by communicating with their legislators. Constantly tell them, we want a better government than what you're giving us. Another way, we have a petition on our website, democracyrisingpa.com, where people can sign it, and it asks the legislature to authorize a referendum in November so that citizens can decide whether they want a convention, and if so, what they want to debate at the convention.
So what you're saying is that you just want the people to decide that question.
Right.
Now, at the moment, only the legislature can decide that. Is that correct?
Yes, only the legislature can put the referendum on the ballot, which is a conflict of interest of monumental proportion. And that's why we have to do this. We have to petition. We have to get them to the point where they were after the pay raise, that if they don't do it, they're in jeopardy of losing their jobs.
All right, let's talk about a couple of the features of the reform, and you just weigh in, give me your shorthand view.
Sure.
Size of the legislature, we have 253 in the House, 50 in the Senate. Is that, on a scale of things, how important is that to you?
Well, it's certainly a very popular issue. To me, the question isn't the number of legislators, it's how many people each legislator represents, and whether you can have a relationship with a legislator or not.
It's a good, well, with modern ways of communicating, maybe you can enlarge it a bit and you wouldn't effectively hinder. No, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what the debate needs to be about.
All right, let's talk about this gift ban.
Yes.
Do you think that people ought to be able to give whatever they want, whenever they want, gifts, even though they have to? Or should we just say, be reasonable, maybe 57? Who cares about a dinner? But we're talking about the big, go ahead.
Indiana, interesting. Indiana just passed a law that says you can't give somebody more than $50 a day.
Yeah.
That wipes out most of the meals that these guys get paid for by lobbyists and so forth.
You know what? I'll tell you what.
A lot of states do this much better than we do.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and you and I may disagree on it. I don't care if they take somebody to dinner now and then, and I don't even care if they take them for a round of golf or to go play tennis. I think there's a level at which, we've got to be careful. Not some normal interaction. But now they can give anything. You can take a legislator a week on the Caribbean. You can take them to Vegas. Yes or no?
Oh, yeah. As long as you disclose it.
As long as they disclose it.
It's the special interests that control what happens in the legislature. Yeah. They pay for the campaigns. They pay to give these guys an ego boost every time they need one. They cover their expenses so that they can collect a per diem without ever having actually spent any money.
Now explain per diems.
Per diem is $163 a day. The rate set by the IRS.
Every legislator gets it when they're on legislative business?
Absolutely. And they get it regardless of whether they have any expenses. You and I, when we're traveling on business, we have to turn in receipts or we don't get reimbursed.
Do I ever?
Right.
Do I ever?
Legislators, no. They just give me the $163, you know. And,
regardless of where they come from. And then there was some stories in the press that some legislators own homes. Yes. And then we're collecting their per diems and paying rent. But we don't object to them being put up. I mean, if they're in Harrisburg, they have to live somewhere. We have to be reasonable.
Right.
Now, go ahead.
The IRS, you know, if you're following the rules of the IRS, per diems are not intended to reimburse you for mortgage payments. They're intended to reimburse you for day-to-day out-of-pocket expenses.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, there are a couple of other aspects of this. One might be the lobbyist aspect of it. We have fairly loose lobbying laws.
Yes.
Most people who lobby are pretty good people, let's be honest. They work hard. They play by the rules. We don't want to paint a broad. But the enforcement of the rules seems a little, maybe, I think only one person has ever been fined that I know of.
Yeah.
And that had to do with that $75 million tax credit for films. Is it loose, or is it me?
No, you're absolutely right. And enforcement is a problem in all of our laws dealing with public integrity. The Department of State, which is supposed to oversee this stuff, is woefully underfunded and woefully understaffed to be able to analyze what's going on and report on it. Citizens who try to go to the website and understand this, it's almost impossible to figure out who's doing what, when, and you know, what effect it may have on the passage of legislation.
Okay. One other issue before you go, initiative, well, there are a couple of them, but they're all usually related. Initiative, referendum, and recall. Should citizens be able to propose legislation? Should they be able to repeal it? Should they be able to recall officials statewide? What's your sense about that? Yes, yes, and yes, or no?
We actually don't have a position, except that this is something that needs to be debated at a convention, because most states have some kind of process that allows citizens to affect public policy. In Pennsylvania, the only time citizens get to vote on public policy is on amendments to the Constitution and recommendations coming out of a Constitution convention.
And without taking any position, one of the things you think ought to be seriously debated is whether we should elect judges, appeals court judges especially, or they should be appointed, right?
Absolutely. That's a debate that we've had regularly. It was a big debate in the 1967-68 convention, and they recommended appointment of judges. The citizens voted it down.
Okay.
That's going to keep coming back and back. The more money lawyers and law firms put into judicial campaigns, the more serious it becomes.
All right, great update. There you have it, folks. Doesn't get any better than that. Tim Potts, who's been spent the last, since 05, looking into all of this stuff. Thanks, as always, for watching, and we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and you stay well.